Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be going through everything that is left to come to global for the rest of the year. Make sure this video isn't too long. I'm not going to go through every single celebration in excruciating detail. I'll do separate videos when the celebrations actually drop on global and go in more detail then. But while you're there, don't forget to drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new while you're down there, and let me know down in the comments who you're most looking forward to out of all of these units that are left to come to global. Now I'm going to be doing these in order how I expect them to drop on global, and the first one is indeed Dokkan Fest Trunks, probably one of the most polarizing releases we've gotten, because he starts out so doo-doo in base, then becomes pretty decent when he transforms. In terms of his lead, it's not bad. You know, Master Evolution, Android / Cell Saga, 200% to Rapid Growth or Earthbred Fighters is okay. On Super Attack, he's getting 30% attack and defense. Passive Key +2 attack and defense plus 150. An additional 100% attack and defense. Additional, there's a 70% chance to become a Super Attack's pretty nice. High chance of guarding all attacks with 3 or more Androids or Cell Saga category units on the team. I'm not gonna lie. The 50% chance to guard is already kind of frustrating as it is. Like, it's better than not having it, but when he doesn't guard, he's gonna get mollywopped. Like, he's gonna get slapped about. So having a 50% chance to do that, but only locked behind the Androids or Cell Saga units on the team, or Android / Cell Saga units on the team, and 3 of them. So not only have you got a 50% chance at best, which is already kind of annoying if it doesn't pop, but then to even get the 50% chance, you need 3 Androids or Cell Saga units. Yeah, this is why his base is kind of doo-doo, because if you look at the units you're running with him, who are you really using at this point? Like, you've got this Trunks here. If we scroll down, I mean, you've got AJL Gohan, but even he's got on a bit by now. Like, the best unit here, hands down and clear, is Carnival LR Future Gohan. Other than that, who are you realistically running just to trigger this 50% chance to guard? I mean, his EZA is pretty decent. That takes us up to 2. Other than that, who are you realistically taking into, like, the current difficult content in Dokkan just to get this man a 50% chance to guard? I'm not saying it's impossible, but you have to kind of alter up your whole team and weaken the entire team just to get this Trunks' 50% chance to guard, which isn't that good in the first place. Trunks then gets an additional attack and defense plus 70% on Super. His attacks are effective against all types, but only when there is an enemy who includes Cell. So Trunks is only going to get that if you're facing Cell Max from Red Zone, maybe the Cell Max event, even though kind of fragile to be taken in there, but you could probably get Super Trunks out by then. And then Cell from Dismal Future of Red Zone. So you're seeing why this Dokkan Fest is incredibly polarizing. Base, kind of doo-doo. When he transforms, this is where shit gets serious. So once Trunks transforms, he keeps the 30% on Super, but he has a guaranteed crit for 1 turn on all attacks. Just like Super Jeets from a couple years ago, his super attacks, all of his attacks will be guaranteed crits on Super. So the amount of actual damage Trunks can do to enemy health bars is generally quite impressive. Couple that up with the fact he's going to have Key +4 and attack and defense plus 300%, he's going to be doing some damage. He has a guaranteed additional and guaranteed guard for 3 turns from the start of turn. And when you consider that this man has to additional Super to transform, or from the 5th turn when you're facing a Cell enemy, so pretty much you're going to be doing it by supers, which of course the built-in additional in base is going to help you do. By the time you get Super Trunks out, he's pretty much going to have guaranteed guard for the last few turns of the fight. So this is why Super Trunks is actually pretty good compared to his base form. He then gets an additional attack and defense boost up to 200% depending on your remaining HP. The more HP, the greater the boost, which might be slightly difficult to maintain. Depending on certain categories, actually probably be a lot easier to do. So couple that up with the 300% you're getting at the start of turn, and then almost the full amount, or round about the amount of 200%. Trunks has got some pretty bulky stats just to begin with. He then gains an additional attack and defense plus 100% on super attacks, and also stuns enemies attacked by the character's super attack, which Of course, there are kind of few and far events in between where you can actually utilize that. But for out and out damage and 3-turn guard, considering how short content is nowadays, turn 5, turn 6, and when realistically you're going to get Super Trunks transformed, he actually becomes really strong and actually pretty good. His active skill, he'll massively raise attack temporarily, cause ultimate damage to your enemy, delay enemy attack for 1 turn within the turn activated, and all attacks become crits. So Trunks is actually pretty strong, and this can be activated when HP is 60% or more, or when there's an enemy whose name includes Cell. So his active skill conditions are actually pretty solid. So carrying through his celebration, there's actually a few things that are already currently active in Dokkan. So of course, Global isn't going to get the Grand Summer Dokkan Festival, because right now, of course, we're getting our version because we've got it in October, which is the kind of Halloween banner they're doing. So that's in place of that. And we've also got the new Android 18 and Mamba as well. Literally just dropped, what, today? Or was it yesterday? I think it was today. Losing track of time. Pretty sure that was today. So considering we've got heroes like in the middle of November, Trunks' celebration is going to be very short. So you've got some of Trunks' content in the back end of part 2 of Turles with LR Goku going to go into Trunks. Trunks will be here for like 2 weeks, and then we've got heroes. So it makes sense why some of this has been moved. Same with some of the Peppy Gal Easy A's and things like that. Of course, we've got standard login bonus and missions. As I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail when it comes to banners and side banner units. All I know is this guy is also pure doo-doo. Same can be said about his banner. The usual stuff is here as well. There's also going to be a step-up stone sale of Keys of the Past. So if you're interested in those and you spend money on the game, do grab those. It's not a bad deal. Got similar stuff with Clash, you know, strike events returning, those kind of things, story events, easy areas, all of that good stuff. Weekend summon, which we've got now. All those kind of things. And then the big easy A for this celebration is going to be my boy transforming Jeets. Now, unfortunately, again, because we've gone down the extreme route of extremely short content, extremely difficult and hard hitting, he doesn't really get good and doesn't get going until I think Super Saiyan 2 or Super Saiyan God at best. So even if Jeets was to appear on turn 1, by the time you get him out to God, I mean, you're looking at like, what? Turn 8 round about then, which is way past typically when events are finishing. So unfortunately, as good as Jeets can be once he gets going, it just unfortunately it takes him too long to actually get going. For him to currently even be usable or more useful, it's a shame because I love my boy Jeets. There's also a skill orb event, which is also quite nice. Never going to turn your nose up at one of them. There's going to be a new stage for the Behold support memory boost, new SBR stages, 49th World Tournament. I know we all hate these, but, you know, just grind them for the stones. And that's pretty much everything in Trunks' content, or Trunks' celebration. Now, considering a few things, as I said, have been moved into part 2 with LR Goku, this makes his already short celebration even more shorter, which is why he's kind of, in my eyes, almost definitely going to be next on Global to fill in that couple week gap before we get all the hero stuff that comes like to the mid back end of November. So the next celebration that should be happening after Trunks, as I've already said, will most likely be Heroes, which typically drops, I think, on like the 21st of November, but could easily start like a few days before, or like the banners will themselves will drop on the 21st, but the actual celebration will drop a few days before that, which makes sense while Trunks' celebration is even shorter on Global, literally only lasting probably like 2 weeks, a week and a half. So we already know at the moment a little bit of the details that are coming for this year's Heroes. Of course, some of the units that have already been teased that are headlining the banner, of course, are SSJ3 Rose, Limit Breaker SSJ4 Vegito, and then the Golden Metal Cooler, Janemba Modified are both getting Dokkan Awakenings. We're getting the free-to-play Toa, who's getting a Dokkan Awakening, and this year's Heroes EZAs are gonna be the Demon King Deborah, the Black Mask Saiyan or Dark Mask King, whichever way around it is, Super Saiyan 4 Broly, can't remember this one's name, Toa, Mira, SSJ4 Vegito, and also Demigra. So this will be coming, as I said, towards the back end of November, like getting towards the 20th. As I said, I think the banners will go live on the 21st, like every year, but the celebration may actually start a few days before that. Next, we probably have the most anticipated release for Global this year, or all that's left, which is the Tanabata or Global's thank you celebration, the LRSSJ4 Goku, who has to be one of the best units in the game, not only card art wise, animation wise, but also kit wise. And also it's SJ4 Goku. Who doesn't love a Super Saiyan 4 Goku, bro? His lead's very good, gives a little bit of a buff to GT heroes. Units wise, may not be the strongest, but it's a nice little buff and he's a good addition. Pure Saiyans, Hybrid Saiyans, full power as well. It's a decent 200% lead, especially running dual SJ4 Gokus. Raises defense by 30% for one turn. Causes colossal damage to the enemy and greatly lowers attack. On 18 key, he's raising defense for 4 turns by 30%, so mini stacking, only getting tankier and tankier. Key +3, attack and defense +150, gets the additional key +1 per key sphere obtained, so you're more often hitting this, which is exactly what you want. Then gains an additional attack +70% and a 50% chance of performing a critical hit when performing a super attack. Having that crit built in is very nice. Then gains an additional attack +70% within the same turn, and defense +70% for 3 turns after evading an attack or receiving an attack, which is going to be very easy to do, and you're going to invite that pressure because he has 20% damage reduction and then gains an additional 70% defense and damage reduction of 20% as the first attacker in a turn. So while he's sitting in slot 1, he'll have 20% damage reduction. He'll also have an extra 20% damage reduction on top of that because he's been hit, along with 70% defense as well. His standby, which is honestly got one of the most slapping and bitching, the most bitching OST in the game, is part of his standby, and it looks great, which he will switch into standby for 4 turns, where he'll switch into Oob, gain 2 charge counters per int or rainbow key sphere obtained, which helps you build the bar up quicker for all allies, and 1 charge counter per type key sphere obtained for them. And then of course, once you do that, you'll be able to transform into full power SJ4 Goku, and you can go into the standby after receiving 5 or more attacks, where in current content, the current climate, you literally take 5 attacks off of 1 turn alone. So getting his standby will take no time at all. I don't really have to say too much about the Marju part. He literally just becomes an absolute defensive god. So I don't really have to say too much. Of course, if you don't fill your bar up enough, you will go back into just Super Saiyan 4 Goku. You recover HP and gain this. If you get the second finish attack and get the bar where you need to at 30 or more, you evolve into full power SJ4 Goku, and once you've done that, you'll raise your attack and defense by 30%, you'll lower enemies' attack by 50%, on 18 key you raise your attack by 50% and raise your defense again by 30% for 4 turns. He recovers 77% HP once only, which is very nice in events, of course, where you're limited to 1 item. He'll guard all attacks for 1 turn no matter what, and perform a critical hit for 3 turns from the start of turn. So he's going to be incredibly bulky for 1 turn, and then just start dealing absolute damage from 3 turns onwards with that guaranteed crit. You'll get key +7, which is great, so you can consistently hit this, and attack and defense +200% at the start of turn. You'll get key +2 per int or rainbow key sphere obtained, again, which helps you hit a more consistent 18 key, and gain an additional key +1 per type key sphere obtained as well. He'll then gain an additional attack +150 when performing a super attack, have a 70% chance upon a critical hit if it's an ultra super attack, which is mainly going to become effective after those 3 turns where you have guaranteed crit, and then gain an additional attack +59% and performs a critical hit when key is 24 or more. Then gain an additional defense +77% for 5 turns after evading an attack or receiving an attack, which receiving an attack is kind of guaranteed. And then evading, I mean, he has 5 dodge as an int unit. Then he has damage reduction by 25% and then defense +77% and reduces damage received by 25% as the first attacker in the turn. So once he goes into full power SJ4 Goku, he will have 50% damage reduction just sitting in slot 1 while having 77% defense, while mini stacking for 4 turns, and all that good stuff. So with heroes becoming in that 21st of November slot, Goku will probably be coming at the very end of November, if not the very beginning of December, and filling out that whole month with the thank you celebration going into the new year. And then in the last couple weeks of December, we'll get LR and Mega Shenron. I actually love everything about this unit. Aside from, I wish his kit was a bit better because it would have done him a lot better, and he would have been a great buff to the likes of GT bosses, which really need to pick me up. Would he fix the category? No, but it needs a little bit of a help, and he would have been a good start. He is leading it by 200% as well, which is another reason why I wished he was like one of the best units in the game, because it just needs so much help, especially him giving a flat 200% lead to this before we start to get some more units in the future, like maybe like a Dokkan Fest transforming Baby, transforming Sin into a Mega, units like that. But on 12 key, he's raising defense by 30%. He's lowering enemies' attack. He also has a high chance of stunning. On 18 key, has a 50% defense raise and lower enemies' attack and defense and conceal. Upon his entrance animation, he changes ink key spheres to rainbow key spheres, all for 7 turns. All enemies get attack and defense minus 25%, and then key +3 and attack and defense plus 200%. I really do wish this was just random key spheres. I don't know why specifically it's int. It would have made more sense if it's just a random key sphere, but sure. But all enemies get minus 25% attack and defense. He gets key +3 and attack and defense plus 200%. Then gains an additional attack plus 20% up to 150 with each attack performed. Then gains an additional key +1 and damage received by 5% per GT boss's category ally on the team. I wish they just gave him also just flat damage reduction, or like 20%, maybe 30, and then you build up damage reduction per GT bosses. Just because, again, there aren't many good GT bosses units in the game. Like, it just needs a lot of help. You have him, and outside of him, maybe Great 8 Babies Easy A. It's not bad. Like, it's decent. It's not amazing. It's decent. These guys take too long to get going. It would have made more sense if he just got some flat damage reduction, then got some extra damage reduction tied to GT bosses, or if they just kind of removed the restriction full stop, because that category just nowhere near good enough right now. He then also gets an additional damage reduction of 7% per rainbow keys for obtained, which does kind of help out a little bit, but you are missing out on more, like a lot of damage reduction because of that restriction alone. If HP is 50% or less at the start of a character's attacking turn, he revives with 70% recovered HP when the character and ally attacking in the same turn is KO'd, which is quite nice. Attacks are effective against all types and launches an additional super which is guaranteed from the turn in which the character's survival skill is activated. So he's not bad, you know, it's not like he's not good enough or anything, like he's decent. It's just, as I said, the GT bosses restrictions and conditions, as I said, the category's just nowhere it needs to be. If he was dropped after, like, there was like a baby and that going around, 17 was a lot better or suited to short content, maybe we can have a conversation. But unfortunately not. His active skill will greatly raise attack temporarily. He will cause ultimate damage to your enemy, lower attack and defense by 30% for 1 turn, and disable enemy's action once within the turn. And this can be activated starting from the 3rd turn from the start of battle, and the target enemy is an attack down or defense down status, or starting from the 6th turn from the start of battle. So even then, his active skill conditions, they're pretty much being triggered when the battle is pretty much done, which is a massive shame. But in terms of what's going to be Global's thank you celebration, as I said, this will most likely fill out the entire month. This is here first, but this will probably be towards the back end of the celebration, getting closer more towards the end of December. We could see another dual Dokkan Fest, but I don't see that happening this year, just because last year it was a dual Dokkan Fest for all the superhero stuff, which was shared. So again, this will probably be most likely near the back end of December, because this will be quite a long celebration. We also got a new stage for the Shadow Dragon event, which of course was stage 7, one of the hardest stages in the game, against Omega. Of course, there's going to be Easy A Great 8 Baby, who's pretty solid. Hopefully sometime soon we can get a Dokkan Fest, standard stuff like login bonus, missions. We've got the Paronga campaign as well. Dokkan Fest, which of course I think every global player is currently summoning for this guy. Again, I'll go through his banner when the celebration drops in more detail. We're going to have the thank you banner, which I know there's a lot of good units on here because it's when the anniversary units come back, but there's so many old Dokkan Fest featured on this banner that you don't want to summon here. If you got the coins, pick up the 8th anniversary units with coins, which is what I want to do, because this LRSSJ4 Goku works really well with these two, and this LRSSJ4 Goku also gives the LRSSJ4s from last year a little bit, not too much, but a little bit of a new lease on life. If you got coins, just pick them up with coins. If you want to summon on this banner, go for it, but I advise you not to, just because there's so many featured units and it's quite difficult to specifically get what you're looking for. There's going to be a 77 character selection, the standard stuff that are in celebrations, another step up sale to get keys, a new stage for the support memory boost, which you should be doing, new stages of Boss Rush. So pretty much just 3 stones. And then, of course, we've got another Dokkan Ultimate Clash. There's going to be a new special edition event, which I can't exactly remember what this is. The annoying thing is I can't click on it. But again, we'll go through more detail with that when it eventually does come on global, so it doesn't really matter too much. We've got Easy A Beerus is actually pretty good. Kind of weird he came in this celebration, but Dokkan's been doing weird shenanigans for like, you know, the last year or so. This is where JP got Easy 8 LR Super Saiyan God Goku, which Global's already got. So we're just not going to have this in ours. More stages of Infinite Dragon Ball History, SBR. Again, just more free stones. Going to be a new chain battle against Giant 8 Baby. New ESBR stages, more free stones, and a 24th Patan battle. So that is everything coming in Goku and Shenron celebration, or Goku celebration, the thank you celebration on Global. I said Goku will come at the end of November, beginning of December, and then Omega will come near the back end, getting closer towards that new year. And then, this is a slight if, but again, if we don't get a dual Dokkan Fest this year like last year, but again, I don't expect that to happen because, of course, there was the whole Dragon Ball superhero stuff, so I don't expect that to happen. We could easily see the TOP androids come at the very end of December, like the 28th, 29th, going into the brand new year, into January of 2024, to kind of round out the year. Omega could fill out that spot in towards the new year, but if they decide not to do that, these guys will definitely come at the back end and have the last few days of December going into 2024. They're not a bad unit. They're not a bad unit. They just need some help. You know, they don't have too bad of a lead. Tournament participants is actually a pretty strong lead. This also gives 200% leads to a lot of course, reps units as well. It's just reps need a lot of boosts. They need a lot of help. So, you know, the next time we get a new UI, SSBE, all those good units, of course, it's gonna help these guys out massively and that team massively. On the 12 key, they're getting a 50% attack and defense raise. On 18 key, sorry, not 18 key, unit super attack, which is with Goku, they'll massively raise attack and defense by 100%. And then enemy to enemy, they'll do immense damage and raise allies attack and defense by 35% for 2 turns. The active conditions, of course, I said, are when a Goku's attacking in the same turn, which it would have made sense if, of course, based on their lead as well, if they easy aid like strength UI Goku here, but they didn't. I guess SSBK still exists and he absolutely decimates enemies, so there's that. Off their entrance animation, they'll change ink key spheres to rainbow key spheres. Oh, sorry, not ink key spheres. They'll randomly change key spheres of a certain type excluded to rainbow key spheres for 4 turns from the start of turn. There is a reps category unit on the team, which again isn't too bad because there's SSBK and MVP 17, but the category still needs quite a bit of help. It really does. They get attack plus 170 and defense plus 180, then an additional attack and defense plus 50% and damage reduction by 30% when performing a super attack. They then gain an additional attack plus 50% and a 50% chance of performing a critical hit with 7 or more key spheres obtained. Tournament participant category allies get key plus 2, an attack and defense plus 35%, and an additional key plus 1 and attack plus 17% and 18% defense with 7 or more key spheres obtained. Then gains an additional attack plus 59% on super. Foresees super attacks when there's an ally whose name includes Goku attacking in the same turn. So they have a lot of versatility. They are pretty good. It's just because they get their damage reduction on super, they need to be slot 2. They kind of needed to be a slot 1 unit, especially if they're needing to be a Goku on the turn to kind of get all the extra buffs, all the extra buffs including the massive 100% attack and defense on the unit super attack, and more importantly, the foresee enemy super attack, which is another reason why it made even more sense to easy A the strength UI Goku, but instead they did Jiren. Or they could have just done both, but they haven't. So by the choice of easy A, it's kind of shagged these guys a little bit. Again, SSBK Goku exists, but these guys aren't really a slot 1 unit. So that is kind of against them. It would have made a lot more sense, especially with where the category is at the moment, to make them a slot 1 unit, and of course needing a Goku attacking in the same turn to get all these extra bonuses and buffs. So it's a shame they made the way they are. They're a decent unit, it's just not what was needed. They also have their active skill where they'll change tech key spheres to ink key spheres, and this can be activated when HP is 78% or less starting from the 5th turn from the start of battle, 8 times only. So that of course is to help them get all their extra benefits from getting so many key spheres, or for the most part the biggest one at 7 or more. In terms of the celebration, there's not many details to go through right now because of course it's literally happening on JP right now as we speak. I said the only thing we've seen is Easy A Jiren is out, and they've really gone into really focused on what he was good at initially, which is being a SBR and ESBR unit, which I get, but of course that content isn't so meaningful nowadays, so he's a little bit on the lackluster side. But again, these might not come at the end of December. They could, but if the thank you celebration on Global doesn't completely fill out December, The TOP androids can easily come at the very end of December going into the new year, but might not happen. But that is everything coming for the rest of the year for global Dokkan. Some big releases in terms of heroes, which I know there's a lot of hype around right now, and of course the LRSJ4 Goku. But you can let me know down in the comments what you're most excited for. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care, have a good rest of your day, and peace.